Did you know that the Victorians had a thing for weird ice cream flavors? Yeah, I didn't either until I went down one of my research rabbit holes, as per usual. If you watched my Medieval Food Week video, you'll know that I love vegetables, and I happen to absolutely love spinach. I will very regularly crave it. And then now I had some greens and I feel like myself again. I feel like I just pepped back up. In fact, the jiaotu soup was probably one of my favorite dishes during the Medieval Food Week. So when I was reading about the Victorian ice cream obsession, a spinach ice cream called iced spinach à la crème caught my eye, and I decided, yes, I definitely want to make this. And since I love making series for this channel, this weird Victorian ice cream adventure is going to be an ongoing thing. So this won't be the last weird ice cream that I try, and you can find all of my ongoing series on the playlist page of my channel, by the way. So where does this recipe come from? I found out about this flavor on one of those 5 weird Victorian recipes type articles and used that information as a starting off point. But I wanted to make sure this actually existed during the period and that it wasn't just something made up in contemporary times for sensationalized hype. So I knew I needed to track down the primary source. After some digging, I finally found it in a book called The Book of Ices by Agnes Marshall. Agnes Marshall was essentially the Rachel Ray of her time. She was a very popular celebrity chef, except TV didn't exist in Victorian times, so she wrote books of recipes. But not only was she a celebrity chef, she was a brilliant businesswoman, an entrepreneur, and an inventor. She became known as the Queen of Ices, popularizing the delicious dairy dessert throughout England during a period where ice cream was still very much seen as a novelty. She even patented a freezer where the advert claimed smooth and delicious ice produced in 3 minutes. At a time when electric freezers didn't exist, this type of invention was revolutionary as far as having access to ice cream was concerned. Additionally, she invented the Marshall Ice Cave, an insulated box for storing ice cream, as well as several other ice cream related inventions. I think she really lives up to her title as the Queen of Ices. And here we are now, and I'm about to follow this recipe and try out this interesting iced spinach à la crème. If only I could use the original patented freezer, but alas, a more modern version will have to suffice. For today's ice cream, we are going to need some spinach, of course. I also have a small pinch of baking soda and some salt, half a pint of milk, a small dessert spoon of castor sugar, and 4 eggs, which I'll be extracting the yolks from. I'll be skipping an ingredient called apple green because it's only used as a colorant, and I don't know what it is, and I couldn't really find a clear answer on the internet. Finally, I have some whipping cream. There's also kind of an elaborate serving suggestion, but since I don't have the Victorian molds that were originally used, I'm using the next best thing, which is a modern silicone mold. It also recommends pairing with a ditto of orange flower water, and I'm not really sure what ditto means in this context, but I suppose I'll just put a small amount, and also a few drops of vanilla, which I have here. You may have noticed my Victorian attire that I'm wearing. If you're new to this channel, it might be strange as to why I haven't mentioned it yet. Well, I'm glad you asked, except you didn't, so I'm going to tell you about it anyways. I wear historical fashion every day, and if you watch my channel regularly, I am so sorry for saying that yet again. If you have some V Birchwood bingo card going, then feel free to mark that one off. But anyways, this is a Victorian outfit that I made, and it's mid-Victorian, so earlier than when this ice cream cookbook was released. So let's just pretend I'm in the Victorian era and wearing my grandma's clothing. I hand-stitched my own clothing, and although I don't wear Victorian clothes as much these days, I did wear primarily this period for some years. Now I wear a variety of different eras and regions like medieval, my ethnic Volga Tatar clothing, Viking, ancient Greek, etc. But a huge part of history that I love is reconstructing clothing and all the various handicrafts that people historically did for survival, for beauty, for enjoyment, and to build community. That's why I'd like to thank the sponsor of today's video, Craftsy. Craftsy is your online resource for all things creative. Craftsy is for creative makers, like-minded enthusiasts, and imaginative doers and dreamers. They offer over 2,000 inspiring classes for makers of all skill levels, with step-by-step instructions in more than 20 categories like knitting, cooking, sewing, painting, and so many more. Some of the courses that caught my eye include stacked stitches, knitting in wild color, vintage textiles and quilts, the ins and outs of embroidery, and the art of cloth dyeing. because being interested in one handicraft tends to spiral into being interested in many handicrafts, there are a couple of others I want to explore in the upcoming months, including leatherworking and finally learning how to actually knit. That's why I'll be taking the Craftsy courses Startup Library Knitting by Suzanne B. Anderson and Leatherworking by Natalie Davis. With Craftsy, you get to learn directly from the experts with classes taught by experienced, award-winning instructors who share their professional techniques that will take your skills to the next level. The first 1,000 of my subscribers to click the link in the video description will get a full year of premium membership to Craftsy for only $1.49. Please keep in mind that this offer is valid for new members only. Thank you so much to Craftsy for sponsoring this video, and now that I have all of my ingredients together, let's get to cooking. Carefully following the instructions, I added some cold water to a cast iron pot and 3 handfuls of spinach, along with some salt and a tiny pinch of baking soda. I let this come to a boil and then drain the water, pressing excess liquid out of the spinach with a spoon. I carefully separated the egg whites from the yolks of 4 eggs and set them aside, then took a half pint of milk and brought it to a boil, just like the book said, except I may have made a mistake by whisking it at this step instead of stirring it. I took the boiled milk and poured it over the 4 egg yolks, whisking it yet again, perhaps another mistake. And then I poured the mixture back into the pot, bringing it to a simmer but making sure that it did not boil again. At this point, I was expecting the mixture to thicken, but it didn't exactly do that. I had a feeling something was off, so I decided to try again, and thankfully I had plenty of eggs and milk in my house. This time, instead of bringing the milk to a boil like the book said to do, I decided to bring it to a simmer, which is the way custard is often prepared in more modern times. I poured the simmered milk over 4 more egg yolks, mixed this again with a wooden spoon, poured it back into the pot to simmer, and this time the mixture did thicken quite a bit more. It seemed like a better success than the last time, so at this point I added in half a dessert spoon of caster sugar and a little salt, and of course, the spinach. Once the spinach had a little time to marinate in the milk, I strained it through a tammy and squeezed out any extra liquid with a spoon, hoping that this would also extract some of the green color since I don't have access to Victorian apple green. Not to mention who knows what type of ingredients the Victorian apple green were made of, because other food colorants at the time were made of some pretty questionable substances. I poured the completed mixture into the silicone mold and set it into the freezer. Then I began preparing the whipped cream by taking some whipping cream in one of those manual whisks, and after making a huge mess, the whipped cream was done. Since I needed to wait for the ice cream to partially freeze, I decided I may as well go ahead and take the spinach remains from earlier and some of the egg whites and prepare a little dinner. It wasn't exactly the tastiest of meals, but it was nourishing and it prevented a little food waste. Once the ice cream was partially frozen, as per the instructions, I mixed a little of the whipped cream into each and placed it back into the freezer overnight. So it's the next day, and I let the ice cream freeze overnight. It's looking pretty interesting. I'm happy to report that the green actually looks more green now that it had some time to freeze. So that's good. I was a little bit concerned yesterday that it wasn't going to look green enough. Let's see what happens. Just grab my ice cream. I'm gonna just try one, I think. See how it looks. Whoop. This is gonna be scary. I'm nervous right now. Oh my god. Oh, got a little bit of pattern going. That is so pretty. Oh my god, that is so, so pretty. Wow, that is just beautiful. Now I'm going to add a little, oh, this is not with a dropper. Okay, this is gonna be risky. I don't know how to get one drop. I don't have a dropper. All right, we're going to very carefully pour this now and just hope that only a drop comes out. Oh, 2 drops. Okay, that was okay. Oh my god, okay. Everything's chaos. And now it's supposed to be a ditto of orange blossom water. I don't know what that even means. Let's see, let's just put a drop. Let's try again. That was way more than a drop. Okay. Well, if this tastes horrible, then I will just get another one because we have many. So it's time for the taste test, and this is actually the start of my breakfast. Right after this, I'm going to have my proper breakfast, but I just couldn't resist having ice cream for breakfast because I think that's what being an adult is, being able to make those choices. It's very frozen and very icy to the point that I can't even break it, which tells me, yeah, I probably didn't do this in the best way, but maybe I can break it. Should I try and just eat it with my hands? So cold. I just want to eat this. Okay, I'm gonna get a knife. I'll be right back. I'm back with a fork and knife. I'm hoping that this is gonna be better. Just like it's a food. If anyone has experience making ice cream, because I definitely don't, maybe you have an idea as to why it's frozen solid like this. Oh my god, I can't even break it with the knife. Chipping away at it, like a little ice block. I just want to get a piece, just a piece. Managed to get a piece on my fork. Let's try this. That was so weird. The whole experience was so weird. The spinach flavor is strangely overpowering, but you don't notice it until you're like halfway through the bite. And then you're like, yeah, this really tastes like spinach. Spinach and mashed potatoes. Have you ever had that combination? I think that that's sort of what it tastes like to me. I'm guessing because of the creaminess and also because there isn't very much sugar in the recipe. It's interesting actually how Victorian ice cream recipes don't have much sugar compared to probably ice cream today. I'm not much of a sweet tooth, so I think I actually prefer it without that much sugar, but you can definitely taste the spinach and it doesn't really feel like ice cream. It kind of just feels like a frozen dinner that isn't cooked and was made into sort of a popsicle icy dessert. It's kind of giving me the feeling of those 1940s Jell-O turkey dinners. I'm going to have one more bite if I can ice pickaxe it out. Okay, that was better. Now that it's not as frozen, it's a little bit easier. The aftertaste is really weird as well. That one, I tasted the orange a bit more. So at first, it really reminded me of those orange juice popsicles that I used to make as a child. At some point in the bite, the spinach hits you. And even as a lover of spinach, I don't particularly like this. I feel like it's a weird combination of flavors. It's just very unexpected, even if you know what it is going into it. And so it feels jarring. I think that's the best way to describe it. After cooking and tasting the ice cream, I decided to dig through the Book of Ices a bit more, which I wish I would have done before preparing the dish because there was this section about some tips to make sure your ice cream doesn't turn out the way mine did. In the section titled Hints on Making Ices, number 2 states, "Too little sugar will cause the ice to freeze hard and rocky." So my guess is I put too little sugar even though I did what the instructions said. Or it may have been point 3, which states, if the ices are to be molded, freeze them in the freezer to the consistency of a thick batter before putting them in the molds. Well, at least I know what I need to do for next time. I will give this a 2 out of 5 corsets because it's just not that great. And even regardless of the consistency and whatever error I did to not make it fluffy and creamy, it wasn't absolutely awful to the point where I can't eat it, but I will not make this again. It's not great. And I don't think many guests would enjoy this either. It's not anything special. There's so many better spinach dishes if you like spinach. I hope you've enjoyed watching the first episode of this weird Victorian ice cream adventures series. If you'd like to see me eat only ancient Greek food for an entire week, then be sure to watch this video next. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in 2 weeks for another video. Bye!